Carlson has an interesting history of defending Andrew Tate. This is what Tucker Carlson said of him in August of this year. Let's watch.
So why don't they want you to hear from Andrew Tate? They really think he's a worse influence on the youth than, say, Cardi B. Tell us how. They're telling us he's a criminal. Okay, has he been charged? Who are the victims? What are their names?
That's not all he said. Mediaite covered what Tucker Carlson said on Tucker Carlson today with Andrew Tate on for an interview. It gets much worse. So in August of 2022, again, Tucker Carlson said lots of mean things are being written about Andrew Tate, but we have learned over time to trust our own experience. Don't believe what you hear, go straight to the source. During their interview, Carlson said he was skeptical of the human trafficking allegations against Tate, arguing they were similar to the charges made against Julian Assange. Tucker Carlson then said, they're telling us he's a criminal. Okay, has he been charged? Who are the victims? What are their names? Ultimately, Mediaite reported that Tucker Carlson ended this lengthy interview with Tate by expressing concern about social media platforms banning his accounts. I'll say this, no sin you've committed is half as threatening as what they just did to you. So it's ridiculous. All of this stuff that Tucker Carlson has said is resurfacing, and it turns out hindsight is 2020, and Tucker Carlson looks pretty stupid right now. I want to break before we get into the weird and funny things that are happening on Twitter as a follow-up to Andrew Tate being arrested. But first, Cenk, what do you make of what Tucker Carlson has said?
Now, remember, this is not the first time Andrew Tate has gotten in trouble for this same crime. That's why Tucker Carlson back then was referring to the crimes. And he does this rhetorical trick with the audience. They fall for it every time. He says, like, who was really hurt by this? What are their names? Now, everyone in the audience goes, oh yeah, I don't know their names. To which I would answer, how the hell would you know their names? They're like random women that were sexually assaulted and kidnapped, etc. How would you know their names? But Tucker Carlson's audience every time, oh yeah, I don't know their names. That's right, it must have been invented. It's fictional. So I don't know if they're ever gonna find out that Tucker's lying to them. But what's interesting is that his reflex was someone has been charged with human trafficking and sexual assault and all these terrible things. And remember, the right wing pretends their number one issue is human trafficking. And then but his instinct is no, defend the human trafficker. Make sure that you wrap your arms around, because they don't care. Not only do they not care about the actual issue, they're actually trying to protect the criminals that are doing it. So everything else is just to smear LGBTQ people, teachers, librarians, attack all of their political opponents. God, it's so depressing that right wingers can't see through it. Guys, come on, what is wrong with you right wingers? It's so obvious. And look at what Andrew Tate did. I mean, at a bare minimum, if Tucker Carlson was like, well, the last case, okay, it had some issues, but now this one, I get it, and he definitely did it. But has he been contrite? No, of course not. Never, they never admit they were wrong. Tucker, why don't you go on air and say, yeah, I defended a guy who does human trafficking, my bad. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that there's another component to this that people need to understand, because a lot of people might look at this and think, oh, these Republicans are being very hypocritical, right? On one hand, they say that they're against human trafficking and they're so concerned about women and children and all these things. But I'm gonna tie this all together so that you understand how these things are connected to each other. And it really is because these people, they view women as property. Fundamentally, right wingers believe that women should be treated like property, like still to this very day. That's why like people like Tucker Carlson and like other like right wing pundits are like desperate to bend over backwards to try and like justify, things that like Andrew Tate has done and said, because fundamentally at the root core, they don't think it's that bad. Now they will say, oh, we have to protect women and we have to protect children. But what they really mean in that statement is they need to protect their women and their children as they would protect private property, not in the sense of actually protecting human beings from harm. And that really is at the heart of it. That's why these same people who are these like horrific misogynists will claim that they're protecting women and then quite literally run around, do this human trafficking nonsense, and also at the same time try and like say that queer people just by existing are groomers, right? That might seem like it's hypocritical, but it's perfectly consistent misogyny where these people just view women and children as their property that they should be able to control and dictate their lives. And the marginalized people, right, who fall outside of their sphere of who they think is worthy, they view as just completely not of consequence. And that's why they don't care about the victims of human trafficking, because they're not their women.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add one quick thing to that before Jess gives us more facts. Look, we're gonna do a story later in the show about how DeSantis has done a giant government investigation of a drag show down in South Florida. And it was not for kids, et cetera. It doesn't matter. They're just targeting LGBTQ folks and spending tons of government money to do that. Now, I give you that as a contrast because do you see right wingers going, I can't believe Andrew Tate, according to Romanian authorities, based on excellent evidence, has kidnapped these women, forced them into having sex against their will, and will not let them go and is profiting off of sexual assault. I mean, if you're a right winger and you claim to care about these issues, wouldn't you be enraged at Andrew Tate? I've not seen any of that. It's like while they spend tons of money doing witch hunts against LGBTQ folks, the only thing I've seen from the right wing on Andrew Tate is either complete silence or defending him. So where are you guys? Where are you, the moral police who claim to care about protecting young women, et cetera? No, you're all frauds, all of you, to the man. You're all frauds. You never cared about any of those issues.
The most interesting part of this, and this was covered on the show yesterday, but Andrew Tate wasn't hiding what he was doing. He said openly, I have 75 women who wear lingerie and do video conferences with men who pay $4 an hour to talk to them. He said he made them fall in love with him and then flew them to Romania to live with him and do this work, oftentimes doing it against their will. He said this on his website. This isn't like some kind of conspiracy that people have come up with about Andrew Tate. He talked about this, he admitted to this, and it was on his website. And then you have members of the right who are now coming to Andrew Tate's defense, who are up in arms about things like OnlyFans. Like this guy was literally grooming women, trafficking them, and having them do sex work. Why is OnlyFans such a subject of concern for the right? And I think it's because women own their labor when it comes to OnlyFans. They run their own account. They're not being directed by someone like Andrew Tate. And so that goes back to the thing about women being property.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.